It's time to break down the best 5 weeks of the football season. So let's go. Taking a look at some of the things that we have coming up. Obviously, we're breaking down all the first round games from the NUIC and 11-man and 8-man. On top of that, taking a look at a little bit of the brackets here. I put out a thing on Twitter already stating what I felt we could definitely see from 8-man to Class 3A. And in the 8-man division, definitely can see all chalk top seeds win in the first round. And then watch the chaos ensue as we get the powers to be in the 8-man division squaring up in the quarterfinals and then leading into the semifinal and state championship game in Monmouth. Likewise, in Class 1A, definitely can see the opportunity for about 9 upsets. 9 upsets from the first round to the state championship game. And I have about 5 upsets selected in the first round alone already based off of seeds. So that's going to be very interesting to watch that play out. Take a look at Class 2A, can definitely see about 3 upsets in that first round based off seeds, and then about 3 to 4 more upsets coming down the road on the road to Champaign in that division. And then Class 3A, which is a very loaded division to say the least, but all chalk first round. Top seeds win first round. Very little room for upsets there based off of my projections and predictions. And taking a look at what will then ensue in the later rounds, it's basically let's get to the second round and let the powers have at it. And that's basically what it looks like in Class 3A. We got a lot of Goliaths taken off in Class 3A in the later rounds. So it's definitely going to be a lot of fun, and we're going to begin breaking all these games down that we have on our docket right now. All right, we're going to start in 8-man. The first game that we have is Hiawatha at Polo. The Hawks come in with a 6-3 record. Polo comes in at 7-2. Last week, Hiawatha beat Alden Hebron 56-28. Polo beat Akwin 66-22. These two teams met in the regular season, so this is a matchup that is a rematch from their Week 5 contest where Polo won 44-32. And taking a look at this game, obviously Hiawatha has some very good playmakers that can get things done on the ground, through the air. Polo, likewise, definitely running on the ground with Brock Soto leading the way. He's already surpassed 3,000 career rushing yards as of Week 8, which I did not mention because I had not been through all of the stat updates until yesterday. But he has eclipsed 3,000 career rushing yards. He's definitely pushing towards that 2,000-yard mark for the season. A lot of that will determine how he plays throughout the playoffs here. But Soto's definitely taken charge of this Polo offense. Obviously, you got great Avery Grenoble in there on the ground, too. He's amassed over 700 yards rushing, and then another 300 yards through the air, roughly right around there. So the Marcos obviously started off the season 2-2. Since then, they've gone 5-0, quietly just slithering their way through the weeks as they go by. You take a look at them in the playoffs since transitioning to the 8-man game, and they are 10-0 in playoffs in 8-man, obviously winning 2 state championships. If you saw our playoff show this past week, obviously a lot of us had West Central as the number 1 ranked team in state to be the team to beat to get the state championship. But, Polo definitely looms large there as well in that 6 seed spot. Probably have one of the most favorable draws as far as being able to reach the semifinal round out of the top 8 as well. So right now, Polo is projected as a 10-point favorite in this rematch. My pick, Polo wins 52-36. Our next first-round matchup in the 8-man game is Blue Ridge at Amboy. Blue Ridge comes in at 6-3, Amboy at 7-2. Last week, Blue Ridge beat Hiawatha 44-34 to improve to 6-3. Amboy lost in a big matchup where it saw number 1 versus number 3 to West Central, 68-30. Caden Drosty having another big game in that one as he ran for over 254 yards and has eclipsed the 2,000-yard mark on the season. Amboy does have some good news in this game, though. I have received information that Tucker Lindemeyer is back and will be cleared to play in round 1. So that is a huge boost for the Clippers in this game. Definitely, he is their captain, their leader, and arguably one of the best players in the entire state of Illinois when it comes to 8-man. Just an unbelievable talent that the Clippers get to put back in their arsenal. The lone senior on the Clippers as well. So obviously there's a lot of things that can be looked forward to as far as how Amboy is going to look in the next season as well. Being that Lindemeyer is the only one that does leave this highly potent team in all aspects. I mean, obviously, we've had Amboy ranked number 1 earlier in the year after they beat Milledgeville. Unfortunately, they only held on to it for the 1 week because then they played Milford-Cissna Park, and that was the game that they lost Lindemeyer in week 4. And ever since then, Eddie Jones, the sophomore quarterback, has stepped in and has done a phenomenal job keeping the Clippers on pace to be where they're at currently. Obviously, taking a look at this game, it's not going to be a very close game, provided that the Clippers can just go in and do what they're supposed to do. Obviously, they're returning from a semifinal run just a season ago, so they have a lot of experience to build on. But with that, Amboy is a 34-point favorite in this game. And, it's great that they have Tucker Lindemeyer back. Like I said, it's going to definitely put another boost into what Amboy can do, both offensively and on the defensive side of the ball, if they utilize him on both sides of the ball. With that, you got to add the play of Quinn Leffelman and Brennan Blaine. Blaine definitely is one of the big-time receivers in 8-man from his tight end position, if you want to call it a tight end position or a slot receiver position when he splits out. But definitely one of the big impact players in the receiving game across all of 8-man. Obviously a returning all-stater as well. Definitely expect that to be another case. But Leffelman and Blaine combined to shore the defensive end spots for the Clippers that can definitely assist in the run game, and provided that they can obviously get some improvements on the defensive side of the ball as shown with this Week 9 loss to West Central. Once again, they could definitely be a player that we can see making a run towards Monmouth the week before Thanksgiving. So this game, my pick, Amboy 54, Blue Ridge 12, Amboy moves on. Our next matchup takes us to Milledgeville, where they are going to play host to West Prairie. Both teams come in with matching 6-3 records, as West Prairie beat Bushnell Prairie City 44-12 last week, and Milledgeville took down St. Thomas More 46-6. You take a look at a lot of things in this game. Once again, The play of Connor Nye is really showing itself throughout the course of the year. He's got over 1,100 yards passing, over 700 yards rushing, which he's done more work on the ground this year than what we saw just a season ago. Bryce Audie's obviously back in the mix to help make that Milledgeville offense more potent. Not used very much last week as they really didn't need to, but watching Colton Wilk come back too and definitely get some things going in the ground game. This is one of those areas where we're starting to see Milledgeville come to what we expected them to be early in the season. At one time, they were also holding the number 1 ranking in state. So, where Milledgeville's at right now is what we expected out of the Missiles. They lost in the quarterfinals unexpectedly last year with that loss to Amboy, but knowing what they had coming back, there was a lot of big things that you could see out of the Missiles. Obviously, Audie was out all season, returned in week 8. Made some spectacular catches in that game against River Ridge. This past week, he did get another trip to the end zone. So already in just 2 games, he has 3 touchdowns and over 100 yards receiving. So you can definitely see the quick impact he has had on this Missiles offense. Milledgeville comes in this game as a 28-point favorite. My pick to win, Milledgeville, 56-18. Our next game is going to take us down to Milford-Cissna Park, where the Bearcats enter this game 7-2. They will play host to AFC, who is 6-3. AFC beat Christian Life last week 44-16. And we watched MCP go down in another top matchup where number 2 Decatur Lutheran beat MCP, who is ranked number 4, 54-40. In that game, we saw Leighton Miller rush for over 300 some yards once again to lift his total up to over 2,800 yards. He had 5 touchdowns in that game, bringing his regular season total to 42 touchdowns. So definitely a very explosive player for the Lions, as he's only a junior. So obviously Coach Jordan Hopman and crew are excited to have his playmaking abilities back again next year. But right now it's all focused on how we can do in the playoffs this year. MCP obviously took over the number 1 ranking in week 4 with that big win over Amboy. Pretty much remained there until they had that hiccup against St. Thomas More in week 7. So with that, though, they do return one of their big playmakers on the offensive and defensive sides of the ball in Mason Blank. He is an absolute game changer for the Bearcats. And, provided that he can play at 100%, either way, he's going to be on the field, but, him at 100% is just amazing to watch. Great speed, great physicality, and it'll be a huge impact boost for MCP. On the other side of the ball, AFC is led by Carson Roof, who is the most prolific passer in the 8-man game this year. Has over 2,200 yards passing on the year with 33 touchdowns by way of air. So definitely a very big part of the AFC offense. He's also the Raiders' leading rusher. So their offense runs strictly through what Roof can do with the ball, whether it be on the run or slinging it down the field. However, I've already said all chalk first round, which means the favorite in this game is Milford-Cissna Park, and it's not a pretty margin. They are a 36-point favorite in this game. And my pick to win is the Bearcats, 48-20. Okay, we're going to jump into 11-man, and the first game we're going to talk about, we're going to start with that number 1 ranked team and the 2-time defending state champion Lena Winslow Panthers, who enter this week 9-0. They will play host to Chicago Richards, who enters the game at 5-4. Last week, Richards beat Ag Science 30-13 to move to that 5-4 mark in a winner gets in type game. So already with a playoff experience game under their belt, Lena Winslow took more of a title bout route when they took on Forreston, coming out of victor 28-14. Obviously, a couple mistakes there for Lena Winslow. Did leave 2 touchdowns off the board against Forreston, but Forreston definitely played what I would feel is their best game of the season despite the loss. They definitely came out. They matched the intensity of Lena Winslow. They showed that they could go toe-to-toe with the champs. Just came up on the bottom side of it. They were able to do some things to hold themselves their own. But, one of the takebacks from that game that I saw is, at halftime I had heard that Forreston had outrushed Lena Winslow, and I then took a look at my stat sheet, and it's like, well, yeah, Forreston started the ball on their side of the field every drive. Lena Winslow had every possession in the first half start on the Forreston side of the field. So obviously you don't have to go very far, and you're not going to collect a lot of yards when you're already on the short end of the field. Needless to say, they did have a easy touchdown catch go right through the hands of Rowan Schultz. He had to stretch out a little bit, just a little too high. Hard to tell if he could have got to it from the angle I was at, but it was there for the taking, to say the least. Maybe a little bit better pass, and it would have been 6 for sure. Possibly could have been 6 if, depending on where the ball was. Like I said, my angle was not a very good angle to see where the hands to the ball were. But it was definitely close, and, that was a missed opportunity that the Panthers could have put up on the board. And then again, the first play from scrimmage in the second half, they had a Gage Dunker touchdown run get called back for a holding penalty on a drive that they eventually would have to punt. So, you take a look at it, and 28-14 could have been more like 44-14. But like I said, Forreston did their part. They held strong. Another thing that Lena Winslow did start doing there in the second half was they did start platoon subbing on both sides of the ball, basically to help keep people fresh, especially on the line. So you gotta take some of these factors into consideration when you take a look at this final score. Obviously, knowing Coach Aaron and the way that he takes a look at how matchups go, he's not going to give Forreston a whole lot to look at in the first game, knowing that he would have a potential opportunity to see them again in the playoffs. So, very conservative play action by Lena Winslow just to make sure that they conserve the win and the conference championship, which they did. In this matchup, though, I've already wasted my time talking about it. Lena Winslow is a 61-point favorite over Chicago Richards. This one's going to be over by the end of the first quarter. Yes, I said first quarter. Lena Winslow, my pick to win 64-0. One of the most intriguing matchups that we're going to see in Class 1A comes in this next matchup, where the Fulton Steamers will play host to Aurora Christian. Fulton comes in at 7-2. Aurora Christian comes in at 5-4. Last week, Aurora Christian lost to Wheaton Academy 24-3. Fulton beat Dakota 48-26. Here we are, 4th consecutive year. We are seeing Aurora Christian match up with an NUIC team, and it's the 3rd consecutive year it's happened in the first round. Obviously, there's always a lot of talk with how prolific the Eagles can be when it comes to their passing offense. The old Don Beebe, speed camps. Obviously, Coach David Beebe still in charge of Aurora Christian, and while we've seen some things with AC over the past few seasons with a lot of youth surrounding a little bit of experience, this year's team definitely seems to have a lot more experience under its belt. A good sized line that can definitely make things more protective as far as the shell around the quarterback to give him in that pocket, to give him time to throw. Fulton obviously will come out in a defensive set that will put pressure on the quarterback. I feel that the Steamers do a very good job of mixing it up. I wouldn't be surprised if you saw more of a nickel-style defense where they go into a 4-2, drop 5 back to match up with Aurora Christian, maybe play man with a cover 2, maybe they'll go with a cover 3 at times, but definitely trying to get pressure out of the line play to put that up. I'm sure they'll get some film study in on what Aurora Christian does. I wouldn't be surprised if they'll take some things from the success that we've seen Lena Winslow have against Aurora Christian on the defensive side of the ball as well, to use that to their advantage. This is definitely one of those very intriguing matchups because Fulton is another offense that will run multiple sets. They'll go shotgun. They'll spread it out. They'll go down the field vertically. They're going to come across on dump routes. They'll also run some screen routes. They are not afraid to go into a 2-back set and run the ball out of a wing type formation and get the ball to the fullback and or halfback, which would be oh man, I know that they've been using Joel Ford, Lucas Schroeder, and oh man, this is bad because my mind's slipping right now, but I know who it is. But either way, Fulton is definitely up for a good challenge in this game. Like I said, one of the best matchups I feel in Class 1A in the first round. But Fulton does come into this game as a 17-point favorite, which is really not surprising. I feel that Fulton is one of the top teams in the state. Clearly, we have them ranked number 4 in our NUICfootball.com rankings, or number 5. But ratings-wise, you take a look, and Fulton's definitely right there in the top 5 as well in the ratings. Have definitely played the toughest schedule as far as all the playoff teams in Class 1A. So my pick to win, Fulton 38, Aurora Christian 20. Another matchup that we definitely see in Class 1A is being a lot of intrigue behind it is that between Forreston and St. Bede. Forreston is going to go on the road to Peru to play the Bruins at their place. St. Bede comes in with a 7-2 record. Forreston enters the playoffs at 5-4. Forreston is the 10 seed. St. Bede the 7 seed. So even at 5-4 with the 10 seed, that kind of tells you, the strength of competition that Forreston has seen already. To be able to get enough playoff points to be that high with a 5-4 record. Obviously, we've seen a lot of 5-4 records fill out the Class 1A field. I mean, even the 8 seed that is hosting a game is a 5-4 team in Rova Williamsfield. So, to those out there that are giving me crap on Twitter about just putting Rova on the brackets, there you go, Rova Williamsfield. Anyway, with that, Forreston lost to Lena Winslow last week, 28-14. St. Bede beat Mendota 39-20 to finish out play. But what we've definitely seen out of the Bruins, obviously they were an undefeated team throughout the first 6 weeks of the season before taking a loss there in week 7. And with that, they were definitely ranked pretty high throughout the course of the season, especially as they kept piling on wins. And when we start to break those things down, and you start to see the teams that they've lost to, both in Princeton, who is highly ranked in Class 3A, definitely one of those teams we can expect to see a big playoff run out of. And then the other game with Spring Valley Hall. Obviously, Hall has a Player of the Year candidate in Mac Rusetich, who is just lighting up the Three Rivers Conference. Wouldn't be surprised to see him as an all-state player in Class 4A as well. Unfortunately, Hall is going to get the luxury of traveling to Springfield to play Sacred Heart Griffin in round 1. So not a very good matchup there for Hall and Mac Rusetich, but St. Bede did lose to them. You take a look at some of those common opponents, Morrison was able to beat Hall, along with some other teams within the Three Rivers Conference. So in my opinion, that is a bad loss for St. Bede. Because to me, it tells me that they're probably not as strong as we initially anticipated them to be. And, Forreston, while they come in at 5-4, you take a look at their body of work, and you can argue all day long with this. Obviously, you are what you are, and it is what it is, and that's where we see the Cardinals at is 5-4. But breaking it all down, they literally are about 6 minutes away from being an 8-1 team. So their problems, they definitely know they have to take care of the ball. They need to do better on special teams, whether it be kick it deep or kick it out of bounds. Either way, the little squib kicks that they tend to be doing are not working for them. That has bit them so many times. It bit them again against Lena Winslow here, as they scored to take an 8-0 lead first, and on the ensuing kickoff, Jake Zeal takes that return to the house 68 yards to make it 8-6, and that just started on with 28 unanswered points for the Panthers as they started to take control of the game. So obviously, when you have the momentum, you got to keep the momentum, and you can't have mental breakdowns in the middle of the game like that, especially after you've just put up a score. You cannot allow your kickoff special teams to give that score right back. So you got to make them earn it on going up against your defense. But either way, in this game, Forreston is a 9-point favorite. My pick to win is Forreston 42, St. Bede 27. Our fourth NUIC matchup is going to take us down to Gilman, Illinois, which resides on I-57 just north of Champaign. So quite the road trip for Dakota here in the first round as they go to play Iroquois West. Dakota comes in with a 5-4 mark. Iroquois West comes in at 7-2. Last week, Dakota lost to Fulton 48-26. Iroquois West beat Watseka 56-0. And here we have another very interesting matchup: 5-4, 7-2. Dakota coming in as the 11 seed, Iroquois West at the 6 seed, and obviously one of the big things that is the talk of this game is the offensive tackle for Iroquois West is Cannon Leonard. He is an Iowa commit. He stands 6'9" and 265 pounds. His brother Clayton played for the Raiders just a season ago as well, and he is now a true freshman at the University of Illinois playing football there. So obviously these guys are getting some big looks. Cannon had a lot of D1 offers, which included SIU, Northwestern. I know that Yale offered him. and there was quite a few others as well. So obviously a decent prospect. You know, depending on which site you go to, he's either a 2-star or 3-star prospect. So obviously something to look at as well. You know, definitely one of those players that could potentially make an impact on the offensive side of the ball and or defensive side of the ball for the Raiders, especially with his size. But I think that's also an opportunity that Dakota can go in and surprise some people as well. Obviously, Dakota has played a very strong schedule. If you take a look at it, it's probably, I believe it's rated the 4th or 5th strongest schedule in Class 1A among the playoff contingent. So they've definitely been battle tested. They've played the top teams with Lena Winslow. They lost by a similar score to Fulton. Du-Pec is another team that is ranked in Class 3A as well, and you know, again, lost to a similar score to them. They did beat Forreston. They did have one hiccup there in week 5 with their loss to EPC after they got that big win over Forreston to improve to 3-1 earlier in the year. But you know, Dakota is definitely one of those teams that can do things through the air. Quarterback Kay Niedermeyer has definitely come out with a lot more efficiency this year than what we saw out of him last year. Has thrown for, I believe, 13 or 15 touchdowns on the season. Has right around 1,500 yards passing. Obviously, Adrian Ariano is his largest target, coming out of the backfield and or slot position when they go empty. And then Tug Dornick is the second leading receiver on the team. Both those two guys have set Dakota records in either receiving yards and or receptions for the season. So Dakota can do a lot of things offensively. They have to be able to control the line of scrimmage in this game. I mean, that's a given. I mean, that's where you win the games, is up front. And, you know, with the play of Matthew Carreno, Jake Taylor, Avery Bowers, and those guys, they have to be able to take control of that line and play very physical up front. If they can do that and create spaces to run and then open up the pass game, they are going to find some success against Iroquois West. On the defensive side, again, the line play is going to have to win the battle up front to allow the linebackers in Tommy Bowman and Ariano to be able to make plays, and then they need to be able to have the corners crashing to seal off the edge with Case Rocky, Phoenix Blakely, and then have Nolan Mayberry come up and kind of be that attack missile to shut down their run game. So Dakota definitely has their work cut out for them, but they will enter this game, even though they're an underdog seed-wise, they will enter this game as the favorite. They are a 6-point favorite in this game. My pick to win, Dakota 36, Iroquois West 20. All right, our last matchup is going to take us to Pecatonica, where the Rivermen of Du-Pec enter this matchup 7-2. They will take on Chicago Catalyst Maria, who enters the game at 5-4. Last week, Catalyst Maria was in a win-or-go-home game with Browner, and they won that game 42-0 convincingly. Du-Pec beat Stockton 41-12 in NUIC action. You know, it's one of those games where it reminds you of Chicago Harlan in 2019. Team's going to get to the game. They're not going to be ready to go. They'll probably enter the field with like 5 minutes before kickoff. I'm just stereotyping here a little bit, but needless to say, you know, we've watched the CPL come into the NUIC in the past and have very, very limited success. And let's just put it this way, this game's going to be no different. Du-Pec is a 54-point favorite in this game, and A.J. Mulcahy is the leading rusher in the NUIC. If Coach Hoffman wants to, he could run A.J. for 300 yards and 4 touchdowns probably within the first 18 minutes of the game, and then sit the rest of the game and let the JV do it from the middle of the second quarter on, and it'll be lights out. But needless to say, you got to come ready to play. You got to take care of business. Du-Pec should be able to do that. I feel that they have a lot that they want to prove. Obviously, winning this game would definitely set up a big second-round matchup that would see them most likely travel into Braidwood to play Reed Custer, who has overtaken our #1 spot in our NUICfootball.com state rankings for Class 3A. But you got to win to get there first and see what you have going on. And, Du-Pec's got a lot of youth, but they have some good senior leadership as well with Will Howard, Breon Green, and Mulcahy that can potentially help them be prepared to take on the best. Obviously, this is a team that played against IC Catholic last year, so they have some experience against top programs in Class 3A. But in this matchup with Catalyst Maria, my pick, Du-Pec 60, Catalyst Maria, nothing. All right, that gives you a look at what we see as far as our breakdowns are for the first round matchups with 8-man to 11-man. We'll go through and take a look what our NUICfootball.com state rankings look like as we put out our final edition of these for the season. We will start in 8-man, and holding on to that #1 spot is West Central at 9-0. Coming in at number 2 is Decatur Lutheran at 9-0. Moving up to number 3 is Polo at 7-2. Coming in at number 4 are the Bearcats of Milford-Cissna Park at 7-2. Number 5 is the Amboy Clippers at 7-2, and finding their way up to number 6, where we expect them to be, are the Milledgeville Missiles at 6-3. Number 7 is Ridgewood at 8-1. Number 8 is St. Thomas More as they drop 2 spots and fall to 6-3. Coming in at number 9 is Pawnee at 6-3, and rounding out the top 10 is Hiawatha at 6-3. Obviously, all of our panel voters had all the same 10 teams in this week's ranking, so there is nobody that received votes, and that gives you a pretty good idea of what we thought about 8-man to all have the exact same 10 teams in that state ranking. In Class 1A, definitely a lot of scenarios here. We got a lot of teams that received votes this week. It looks like we had 17 teams in total receive votes, so definitely a very large increase compared to the previous 2 weeks. But coming at number 1, the favorite, Lena Winslow, 9-0. Number 2 is Chicago Hope Academy at 9-0. Number 3 is the new favorite in the South bracket, as Ridgeview Lexington falls to that South bracket with a 9-0 record. At number 4 is Camp Point Central at 9-0. Number 5 is Fulton at 7-2. The Marquette Crusaders find their way at number 6 at 8-1. Forreston comes in at number 7 at 5-4. Tuscola takes the 8th spot with a 7-2 record. New to the Class 1A state rankings based off of how things entered and where we find our playoff brackets at. Rockford Lutheran at 5-4 takes the number 9 spot, and rounding out the top 10 is Greenfield Northwestern at 8-1. Teams that received votes: Aurora Christian at 5-4, Iroquois West at 7-2, St. Bede at 7-2, Route Catholic at 7-2, Morrison at 5-4, Anawan Wethersfield at 7-2, and Salt Fork at 6-3. Moving into Class 2A, not a lot of changes here. Number 1 spot stays with St. Teresa, who's held that spot all season long at 9-0. Number 2 is Maroa Forsyth at 9-0. Your defending state champs are the Wilmington Wildcats at number 3. They are 8-1. At number 4 are the Rockridge Rockets at 8-1. Bismarck, Henning, Rossville, Allen comes in at number 5 at 9-0. Shelbyville hits the number 6 spot at 8-1. Pana is number 7 at 8-1. Athens gets bumped back into the Class 2A state rankings. They are number 8 at 7-2. Number 9 is Tri-Valley at 7-2, and rounding out the top 10 is North Mac at 8-1. Teams that received votes were Johnston City at 9-0, Knoxville at 7-2, and one team that hasn't received a lot of conversation, Bloomington Central Catholic at 6-3. And our Class 3A state rankings has some changes to it. Our new number 1, overtaking IC Catholic for the first time all season, is Reed Custer at 9-0. Number 2 is IC Catholic at 8-1. Princeton comes in at number 3 at 9-0. Prairie Central comes in at number 4 at 9-0. Byron has the 5 spot at 8-1. Number 6 is Stillman Valley at 8-1. Number 7 is Tolono Unity at 8-1. Number 8 is Williamsville at 8-1. Coming in at number 9 is Genoa Kingston at 7-2. And rounding out the top 10 is Du-Pec at 7-2. Teams that received votes were Mount Carmel at 8-1 and Seneca at 9-0. All right, that gives you a look at what we have for state rankings, what we feel my predictions are for Class 1A and 8-man in our NUIC docket of games, along with Class 3A where we see the Du-Pec Rivermen sit. Obviously, a lot of good games. Our NUIC contingent is favored in every game but one, with the exception of AFC against MCP. So obviously we're looking at a lot of games that can lead our NUIC teams into the second round in Class 1A and the quarterfinals in 8-man, and it's going to be a lot of fun. This week I'm going to hit up the first round 8-man game with Polo and Hiawatha to see that rematch. Definitely probably one of the best matchups in the first round of the 8-man playoffs. But then on Saturday, I'm going to step out of conference. I'm taking a trip down to my college alma mater down in Jacksonville, Illinois, where I'm going to go watch Route Catholic take on Villa Grove. It's a very intriguing matchup in my opinion. That game is also taking place on my former campus of McMurray College, so definitely intrigued to see that matchup at Friesen Field. Their head coach is Barry Creviston, who is also a Highlander alum as well. So and he's going up against Villa Grove, who has head coach Heath Wilson there, who used to be the head coach at Route. So just a very intriguing matchup to me. I want to get in, go down to a game out of the South bracket as well, just to get a little bit more knowledge set beyond what I've already seen on film, get that true eye test front row, and see what the South has for us. Obviously, Route Catholic at 7-2 has a very high prolific offense with Cohen Hoots at quarterback and Dax Baptist and Will Jackson. And it'll be interesting to see what they can do. Obviously, potential of them making a quarterfinal or semifinal state run is there. It's not something I really have projected out, but it'll give me a better viewpoint of what we can expect coming out of the South bracket. So that's why I'm heading that way, and it's actually the first time I've really stepped out of conference on a playoff weekend, but considering that all of our teams are pretty much locks for first round wins, it gives me that opportunity to do so. But get out to the games, root for your teams. If you don't have a team to root for, you know what to do. Always root for the NUIC.